Yeah, no, well, in 2006, I made a short film about mass hysteria, and I just came across all these stories. And I think, in a way, I'm interested in it because it's a collective of, it's a collective, it's a group of people, so it's very powerful. And mass psychogenic illnesses, mass hysterias, they always happen in single-sex institutions, and particularly female single-sex institutions, because women are and young girls and stuff, girls are more likely to talk about their symptoms because they're more verbal. So they usually spread in nunneries. I'd love to see one in a nunnery, I have to say. Anyway, but for me, it's the idea, it embodies so much about life because so much is repressed. So it's the ability to be, I think, it enables you to begin to look at well, in this film in particular, adolescence identity, and when, you're kind of sort of trying to resist sort of dominant ideas of what you should be as a young woman. So I could talk for about 8 weeks, but that's my little answer.
And can I ask about the choice to set it in 1969, which seems really particular because there's all this kind of, there's quite a lot of Gothic reverberations in the way that you treat it, but 1969 is a very particular historical moment.
Yeah, well, a number of reasons. One was that mass psychogenic illnesses, mass hysterias, usually represent the anxieties of the time. So when we have them now, they're about kind of chemicals in food or stuff like that. But I thought, the 60s, when you look into the cases then, the variety of cases they were usually around sexual tension and anxiety, because I think women's sexual lives were changing and women were being regarded differently. So I think I wanted to set it one there because of that idea of sex somehow being frightening to the other people and other generations, and the idea of female adolescent sexuality changing. But secondly, 1969, it was sort of an adolescent era really on the cusp of change. So I like the idea of that. And 3, because I wanted to kind of make a teen film where they weren't on mobile phones, And I thought, just get rid of, because you couldn't make a film now without someone sending a text. So just so that was the big reason, really. And also, I love the sort of irony that, 1969, man lands on the moon, but Maxine's character, your mum Eileen, can't leave the house. So I just love the irony as well. And they discovered the stylophone. Invented the stylophone, yeah.
Maisie, can I ask what this was like for you coming, off, we know you well for your, performance and role in Game of Thrones, and this obviously is a very different sort of style of production, and what was it like for you to work on an independent film and to work with someone like Carol?
Honestly, it was really, really lovely for someone to see me in a different light and not like a stone cold killer badass. It was so lovely for someone to actually give me a chance to read in for something that was so different, and just the way in which it kind of explored female adolescence and kind of really honestly portrayed things that go through young girls' minds, and when you're all together in your bedroom and you're all gossiping about this or that, and I liked how it honestly spoke about that. And yeah, it was so lovely to work with such an intimate crew. I knew who everyone was, which is very, very different on Game of Thrones. You meet 100 people a day and you're not sure what department they're from or anything like that. And it was so lovely to have a group of people and we all kind of worked on it together and then finished together, and that was nice.
And Florence, this is your first experience of working in a film, and I know a little bit of backstory here about the sort of search for someone to play Abby. Can you talk about how you came to the project?
Well, Carol sent out kind of like a leaflet audition around Oxford because they were filming there. So my school got in the email, and lots of girls are going for this 30-second tape where you introduce yourself and say what your hobbies are, and I actually wasn't going to do it. And then I did it on the last week, and I got a recall, which was, in these big auditions, you never expect anything, but my mum was like, just do it, it's a bit of experience. And then I had a whole summer worth of re-auditions and recalls, and then I met Maisie in about the end of September, and then, of course, got the part. And honestly, it is a dream, working with such amazing actors, and I couldn't have asked for anything more, to be honest, on my first experience. But yeah, so thank you, Carol.
One of the things that I love about the film, Monica, is the sort of the fact that we really see these sort of two generations, if you like, of women, and you're sort of embodying this idea that in a way it sort of reverberates that you too may have had an experience like this that you're sort of suppressing. Is that kind of how you came to that role?
Oh yeah, there's a whole backstory of Miss Alvaro had an artistic lover. She writes in green, she writes poetry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw the pictures on her wall. She had Virginia Woolf up there, and yeah, just everything that you would think, really.
Can I ask you? You mentioned in the introduction, Carol, and of course we had Tracey Thorn on stage. The music, I think, is just such a wonderful aspect of the film. And how did the two of you work together? And was that something that you did post filming or whilst you were filming?
Well, I really did while we were making it, and all together. I had a dream that she did it, and then I remember we couldn't really get
An actual dream.
an actual dream. No, yeah, not like a daydream. It was an actual dream. And do you remember we couldn't get phone signals in Oxfordshire where we were filming? So I remember being outside this cafe called what was it called? A deli. What was it called? Cafe. What was it? Yeah, Salvador Deli. I've just never forgotten that image of Salvador Deli. And I was like that, and I'd managed to get hold of Tracey and get her phone number, and I phoned her like that. And when I met her, so I think it was probably from, just the Marine Girls, really, and Tracey's early band. But when I met her, I took all the instruments from the Alternative School Orchestra to her, and that's, as far as I know, that's what it's all made on. So it's made on the instruments of the school orchestra, the very same ones, yeah. And I think really, Tracey hadn't composed for film before, which is what I really loved as well. I didn't want to make a film set in 1969 that featured loads of 69 music, because I think when you live in a time, music isn't that old. Do you know what I mean? So I wanted something fresh. I love Tracey's music anyway, but I wanted to sort of throw something in the mix, really, that was different and sort of inspired other kind of possibilities for the music, and it wasn't necessarily scored to picture to begin with, but then it became more so. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've read obviously about it and stuff. But you know what's really weird? I have this theory that we don't, as filmmakers, we don't really make films. There's these things that come along and possess you to make them. Because in the Times review today, she talked about Abigail being named after Abigail in the Abigail being named after Abigail in the Crucible, and I didn't know that. So, but now I am going to change my story now. But then I was reading it and went, but I must have known that, because surely I knew that, because obviously, so, but while I was writing it and researching it, people were talking about the Crucible. So I've looked into witchcraft and Salem. I've been to Salem and all that. So all that stuff totally fascinates me, like the original history and the trials, the witch trials in obviously New England that tallied with ours in England. So I'm sort of, I'm not that totally ignorant, but a bit.
From a cinematic point of view, for me, and it's also been picked up by a number of the reviews so far, the sort of links to Picnic at Hanging Rock, the Peter Weir film, and did you have cinematic influences?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, there's little things in there, like when, it's probably not to tell people, I love Picnic at Hanging Rock, but there are little references in there, obviously, like the umbrellas for the parasols, and when the watches stop in the art class, that's a direct reference to Picnic at Hanging Rock. And, it's got quite an Australasian sort of link, really, because my first love from my brilliant film teacher, Bev Alcott, was Sweetie by Jane Campion, and in fact the mother, when she goes to the tree, goes to Sweetie, and that was a direct reference to the sister in Sweetie falling from the tree. So I just want people to have to watch the film 10 times on Netflix eventually. But there are a lot of references to it, but not like I wanted to make that film or thought that I was of that standard, but it was more like that you just kind of you can't help it.
I had this brooch all the time, all the way through, and really for Miss Alvaro, she just thinks that they're seeking attention, and you know, it's just a way to wake her up. Really, she's just kind of, here we go, right, that'll sort you out, and I think it's a way of proving to herself as well that it's just nonsense. So.
I mean, when I was researching the film, I went through a lot of articles, and I found I actually went to interview a GP that had attended a school where an outbreak had happened, and he couldn't remember anything about it apart from he went, I remember I stuck a pin in a girl to see what would happen. So it actually was really, and that was of that era. So you wouldn't be allowed to. Now you'd be sued, I suppose. But. I think that so it was sort of trying to get to the centre of a mass hysteria and what causes it. Or you know, the people that lie behind it, if you like. And I've met this psychiatrist guy, and he says, you know, if you tend to look at the very central participants of a mass psychogenic illness, you'll probably find they have quite difficult home lives and stuff like that. So I feel that, for me, I feel that Maisie's character, Lydia, has essentially lost her best friend, everything. I mean, although she's got these group of girls that she grows closer to, in the end, after the school incident in the toilet, she loses everybody. And I think it's in a dysfunctional home. And I think I did a lot of research on family incest as well, and it's so high, you know, I mean, not that high, but I mean, it's... It's a lot more. It's a lot more than people think. So you kind of think, well, it's part of our lives and often treated only in a purely soap opera-atic way. So I really wanted to address that, but I felt it was right that the character, you know, was exploring stuff, and she kind of wants to get close to Abby. So Kenneth is the person that got closest to Abby. So it's sort of a complex mix of things, really.
I think Lydia was constantly seeking to go somewhere else. And the only kind of way Abby did describe that was with Kenneth. And in a really kind of twisted way, she's looking for Abby.